Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into what's gotta be the greatest detective story in the entire universe. I mean, for generations, we've looked up at the night sky and wondered, is anybody looking back at us? We've built these massive radio telescopes, we've launched probes out into the deep dark, and we've spent literally decades searching for extraterrestrial intelligence. But you know, this search isn't just about the science. It's this profound mystery that challenges our deepest assumptions about life, survival, and honestly, our actual place in the cosmos. Let's get into it.
It all kicks off with a beautifully simple question, famously asked by the physicist Enrico Fermi during a casual lunch way back in 1950. He's looking at the sheer vastness of the universe, knowing the incredibly high probability of life developing out there, and he just asks, where is everybody? It's a great point, right? This became known as the Fermi Paradox, and it highlights this massive, frankly eerie contradiction. We have these high expectations for an unimaginably crowded universe, but all we hear is this unbroken, deafening silence.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the scale of the problem is just absolutely staggering. Check out this number. Our Milky Way galaxy alone holds somewhere between 200 billion and 400 billion stars. Think about that for a second. And many of these stars are billions of years older than our own sun. Plus, we now know that nearly every single star out there hosts at least one planet. So the sheer arithmetic of existence strongly suggests that there's no way we should be alone. There has been more than enough time, billions of years actually, for life to emerge, evolve, and spread all across the galaxy.
So, to make sense of all this, astronomers really needed a framework, and in 1961, astronomer Frank Drake gave them exactly that. Now, the Drake equation wasn't meant to just spit out one magical, precise number. Instead, it gave scientists a structured way to sort of guesstimate how many communicative civilizations might actually be out there. By breaking the whole mystery down into manageable variables, things like the rate of star formation all the way to the average lifespan of a technological society, even the most conservative estimates suggested our galaxy should just be teeming with voices.
All right, Section 1. Clues and false alarms in searching the cosmos. Let's look at what decades of optimistic listening have actually uncovered. We're going to treat this like a cosmic crime scene and check out the anomalies that have kept astronomers right on the edge of their seats.
Now, on August 15, 1977, an astronomer named Jerry Amon was going through data from Ohio State University's Big Ear radio telescope, and he saw something that stopped him dead in his tracks. It was a 72-second narrow-band radio burst, and it was coming right from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius. It was incredibly strong. In fact, it's so perfectly matched what scientists predicted an artificial alien transmission would look like that Amon circled the data and literally wrote one word in red ink: wow. But here's the crazy part. Despite decades of follow-up searches using way more sensitive equipment, that signal has never repeated. Not once. It remains our absolute most famous unexplained anomaly.
But as you can imagine, the search is incredibly tricky and the cosmos is just full of interference. Take a look at this comparison. On the one side, we have the legendary WOW signal coming from deep space. On the other side, we have a bizarre signal detected just recently, on June 13, 2024. Astronomers in Australia picked up this highly energetic nanosecond radio burst. So, was it aliens? No, definitely not. They traced it to an altitude of just 4,500 kilometers. Turns out, it was just an electrostatic discharge from Relay 2, which is a long-dead NASA satellite that's been drifting in Earth orbit since 1967. It's a perfect illustration of how easily our own terrestrial technology, and space junk really, can completely mimic a cosmic anomaly.
Moving on to Section 2, shouting into the void through active SETI messages. See, driven by this immense, almost boundless optimism of the 20th century, we decided that, well, if no one's calling us, we're going to call them. We completely shifted from just passively listening to actively shouting out into the cosmic dark.
This timeline really traces our eager interstellar footprint, right? In 1974, we beamed the Arecibo message toward a star cluster 22,000 light-years away. Then, in 1977, we followed that right up by launching the Voyager probes, complete with golden records packed with the sounds and images of Earth. Fast forward to 2012, and to celebrate the 35th anniversary of the WOW signal, the Arecibo Observatory beamed a rapid-fire digital stream of over 10,000 Twitter messages towards distant stars. We have been incredibly, and honestly almost impatiently, eager to announce our presence to the whole galaxy.
But let's look a little closer at what we actually sent out there. The Arecibo message didn't just say, "Hey, what's up?" It literally included our DNA structure and a highly detailed schematic of our solar system. The Voyager Golden records went even further than that. They carry a map based on 14 pulsars that pinpoints the exact, precise location of our sun. Essentially, driven by this unwavering, kind of naive belief that any advanced civilization must be friendly, we enthusiastically handed out our exact cosmic address to literally anyone who might be listening. Which, brings us to a pretty sobering realization.
This brings us to Section 3, the ethics of space, astroethics, and survival. Now, what's really interesting about this is how, in recent years, all that unbridled optimism from the early SETI days has been met with a much more hushed, highly analytical inquiry. What if the universe doesn't actually reward openness? So let's talk about astroethics, and specifically the precautionary principle. Basically, this principle argues that whenever we lack scientific consensus, we really need to avoid actions that might bring harm to Earth. Think about it. Small groups of researchers have unilaterally sent these powerful, heavily targeted radio transmissions deep into space without any global consensus or any treaty governing who gets to speak for all 8 billion of us humans. From a purely analytical standpoint, active SETI might just be a massive, entirely unpredictable gamble with our very survival.
And some of our absolutely brightest minds have echoed these exact warnings. The late Stephen Hawking famously argued against contacting extraterrestrials. He pointed directly to our own history here on Earth, noting how encounters between different civilizations, like the colonization of the Americas or the near extinction of Aboriginal Tasmania, often ended in absolute devastation for the less technologically advanced group. Hawking's fear was that if a hyper-advanced species finds us, the results might be completely catastrophic.
Which brings us to Section 4, the dark forest theory. This is the jaw-dropping plot twist of our explainer today. What if the silence of the universe isn't some mystery waiting to be solved, but rather a deliberate survival strategy?
Popularized by the amazing science fiction author Lou Sixon, the dark forest theory derives a truly terrifying conclusion from 3 very basic, undeniable axioms. First up, survival is the primary need of every single civilization. Second, civilizations naturally grow and expand. And third, the total matter and energy in the universe is finite. Now, these aren't wild assumptions, right? They are the absolute basic biological and economic truths that we observe right here on Earth every day.
But here's the catch. When you apply those same truths to the cosmos, you hit a massive roadblock called the chain of suspicion. Because of the truly vast distances in space, communication takes years, decades, or even millennia. You can literally never truly know another civilization's intentions. Even if they seem totally peaceful, they don't know if you are peaceful, and you don't know if they know that you know they're peaceful. It's an endless loop. Trust becomes mathematically and physically impossible.
So the crucial point is what happens next. You might be sitting there thinking, well, if we find a primitive civilization, we can just sit back and observe them, right? But the dark forest introduces the technological explosion. On a cosmic timescale, a civilization can go from riding horses to building planet-destroying weapons in just a few centuries. In the grand scheme of things, that is an absolute blink of an eye. Because of this, you can never, ever safely ignore a weaker neighbor. Their technology could explode practically overnight, transforming them into a massive existential threat before your next message even reaches them.
And that creates the ultimate cosmic prisoner's dilemma, the dark forest equilibrium. Because there is absolutely no way to build trust, no way to verify agreements, and the penalty for trusting the wrong neighbor is literally the total annihilation of your entire species. The only rational strategy left is absolute silence. The universe isn't empty, guys. It's a dark forest full of armed hunters creeping quietly through the trees. The reason we hear nothing is because the oldest, wisest civilizations know way better than to make a sound. Any civilization that reveals itself instantly becomes a target. Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought. We are a really young civilization, and we're out here proudly shouting into the darkness with the sheer confidence of a species that has never actually been answered. But if the dark forest theory is right, the silence we're hearing isn't an invitation to speak louder. It's a warning. So, is our eagerness to broadcast our cosmic address just a beautiful expression of human curiosity, or is it the absolute most fatal mistake our species could ever make? I'll leave you to ponder that one. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep looking up, for sure, but maybe, just maybe, we should keep our voices down.